Hey guys, it's Guido. We're going to do something a little different here. I'm going to do a reaction video to the new Top Gun trailer, number 2, Maverick. Now, I watched the first one. I thought it was kind of interesting, and it looked like they got some of the stuff right. And then I watched the second one, and I'm kind of laughing. Now, you can see that the background here is not the trailer. I'm not going to give you any of the audio or show you the thing. If you want to follow along, please do so. Just start watching the trailer, and I'll discuss it as we go. The problem is you can't monetize stuff that has their intellectual property in it. So there'll be no sound and there will be no video, but I'm going to talk about this thing as it goes. And I thought it was kind of interesting, actually. So let's just try this a little bit different this time, a little bit different. So this is Guido's take, a fighter pilot's take on Top Gun Maverick, Top Gun Maverick 2020, trailer number 2. All right, let's see. So it opens up with a Paramount idea with the Paramount Viacom, says Skydance, blah, blah, blah. The first thing we get is a big mountain scene, which is really cool, and then an F-14 flies through it. Pretty awesome. So is that a flashback? Is that somebody else flying F-14s? The Iranians fly F-14s. The Iranians are kind of a big deal with us right now. So that's the only people flying these things right now. So I don't know if that's supposed to be an Iranian F-14. Did I say 15? I think I might have said 15. F-14 Tomcat, or if it's just a flashback for old Mavs back in the day when he flew the F-14 at Top Gun. So that thing flies by and it goes to black screen and comes back up with Maverick framed in a window, and he's looking outside and he sees a con. Okay, so chemtrails. There are chemtrails in this. It's not chemtrails. Someone's conning. He's watching somebody con. I assume this is probably from the carrier, but it's hard to tell. So he walks up and he looks out dramatically. It's just a silhouette. And then we see him shove the throttle into maximum overdrive, right? What did they call it in the song? Shove it into overdrive, right? that's Afterburner. He puts it into max AB. But anyway, he's not wearing gloves. Virtually nobody flies without wearing gloves. So there he is, not wearing gloves, because it's more dramatic, and if it's a gloved hand, it's not as cool. So we got him shoving it into overdrive with no gloves. That's wrong. That's some people flew without gloves that I knew, but it's just a bad idea. There's a lot of sharp bits and pointy things and scrapey guys in a cockpit, and then also fire and other bad things. It just you should be wearing your Nomex gloves, but Mav does not need those. All right, he does not need those. So he shoves it in overdrive. Then we get a picture of him. He's kind of looking, and he goes off there, and he's Captain Pete Mitchell Maverick. He's got an interesting color scheme on his F-18, but I'm not sure what squadron it is. Probably one of the Navy guys knows who that is. I do not. And we get a nice look at the bottom of the F-18, and it is a Super Hornet. You can tell because it's got the square intakes on it, and that forward strake is much more pronounced on the Super Hornet. So this guy peels off, and he does basically a barrel roll away, which is, I don't know what nobody really does that. When you peel off from a wingman, you don't normally just barrel roll while looking at them, and so that was really weird. But that's that kind of theatrical flying, and what you're going to get out of this is a lot of theatrical flying. You're going to see them fly the airplanes and do some things that you kind of do in air-to-air combat, but rarely is it so close to each other to where it's so dramatic. And I'll give you a couple examples as we get further on here. So we'll go and hit play, and now we got Maverick hauling ass on his motorcycle, because that was a big part, if you recall, of the first movie, raging around on his motorcycle. I wonder if it's the same bike. Any of my bike experts there, is it the same kind of bike, or is it a newer bike? But he's hauling through the desert on his bike, all crouched down. And his flight jacket is flapping maniacally in the wind, which seems like kind of a bad idea to me. And then he pulls up, and he's looking at the iconic F-14 Tomcat. It is a jet on a stick. Why? Because it's been retired. So the F-14 is retired, and it is now living as a static jet on a stick right there. So moving on from the jet on a stick, he's on his bike. He looks at it longingly. And now he's flying an F-18 through some canyons. Let me just watch this, because he's... All right, so that is sped up a little bit. The way he's rocking back and forth and maneuvering is, I don't know if it's really quite that fast, but it is cool looking, and it is showing how you would E&E your way through canyons like that. But he's hauling ass through the canyons, going real fast. And then we have this speech, which unfortunately I can't tell you the speech, but it's talking about how Maverick is the best of the best pilot the program has ever produced. And it's a bunch of young nugs kind of watching. And of course, there's a woman involved. Good. And then there's a guy that kind of looks like Iceman. Is this his kid? I'm wondering if it's Iceman's kid coming into the program. And then we have a guy that is, I think, the analog to Iceman. Goose, not Iceman's kid. Goose's kid. There was a picture of him, guy with glasses. Now we got another kind of analog to Iceman, the big square-jawed and blonde aviator sitting there. So it almost looks like he's maybe laughing about it. And then we get this, there's a picture of Goose's kid. So I don't know who this actor is, but he looks a lot like the guy that played Goose. It's actually pretty good, man. So I'm not sure what's going on there. And he's looking a little irritated by the whole thing. There's another picture of shoving it into overdrive again with his bare hand and no gloves. Now, this was my favorite bit of it right here. Let me just go a little further because they're flying obviously, and there's an F-18 behind another. Is it an F-18 or 16? No, it's another F-18, and he shoves it in overdrive. He pulls back, and now he's going straight up, and it's. We always made fun of this, the whole, watch this going into idle or speed brakes or whatever it is he did and he'll fly right on by. All right, that just doesn't happen. It's not a thing. But here we go. This is that dramatic kind of theatrical flying. The one F-18 goes up and the other one, he flies right by. He had no idea that was going on. First of all, he's so close, he's already busted the bubble, and he's probably sitting down and in trouble right now. All right. Never mind that the guy just flat plated right in front of him, and it's a near midair. I mean, this would cause multiple hours of debrief on why your wingman is such a moron that he got that close. But anyway, there you go. He shoves it into overdrive and then makes him fly right on by. So he's gone by. Let's see. Oh yeah, and then the picture is actually pretty good. It's from below looking up at Maverick, and you've got this big F-18 flat plating right above him, and he watches him go straight up into the air, and then it goes to black, and I guess that means he beat him. What a guy! And then the dialogue here is actually pretty good. It goes into a scene with a general talking to Maverick, and Maverick says, "Hey, thanks for the invite back." And the general sitting there looking at him. He's actually an admiral, not a general. He's sitting there looking at him. He goes, "This is great." He goes, "They're called orders, Maverick." And of course, you get that classic shit-eating grin there from Tom Cruise, kind of laughing. And then it says next summer. Now we get some good stuff. We get some carrier picture. We got Maverick on the carrier with the wind. He's on the elevator with the F-18. Sorry, I'm going to try to call it the F-15. We see some afterburner. We see Maverick come off. This is the same shot that was in the first trailer, I believe. He's coming off the carrier. And I'm wondering if that's either CGI or he's sitting in the back seat of the two-seater. Because, he would not be in the front seat coming off the carrier. So it's probably just good CGI, to be quite honest. So he comes off. And what's interesting, it's a pretty good idea of the violence of the cat launch right there. Not that I've actually been in one, but seeing actual footage of cat launches, it's pretty well done. Makes me feel like maybe he's in the back seat. But if there's an F-18 guy out there, you might be able to look at that and go, yeah, Mav is sitting in the back seat of a two-seater. It's hard to tell. For me, anyway, having not flown the F-18. But he gets that kind of jerky motion right there, and we are off. And he takes off, and he's following some wingmen. Now we got guys with their masks down, which is something I understand the Navy does a little more than we do. It's very rare, though, for anyone in a fighter to fly around with their mask down all the time. Never mind when they're just about to go ahead and get into BFM or some kind of training mission. But this is theatrical stuff, so they want to see the actors' faces and all that kind of good crap. So we got Maverick talking. He's got his mask. He's like, all right. And now he's giving some weird pep talk over the radio. It's just some weird pep talk. Dude, that should have been done in the briefing earlier. You don't take off and go, all right, here's what we're if you got caught just taking off and briefing in the air like that, you would not long be an instructor, especially at a place like Top Gun or weapons school for the Air Force. That's pretty funny. It's very theatrical though, and this picture or this two ship he's got, they're not in nice fingertip formation. He's got a single seat and a two seat right next to him, so that was interesting. One of each right there. So I don't know if they're going to differentiate between those with the Rio in the back of the two-seater, and they do have single-seaters. Will be interesting to see how they do that, because if you remember in the first movie, it was all F-14s, and those are all two-seaters with the pilot and the Rio in the back. What radar intercept officers, I believe it's called. So we have those two in formation. He's talking, all right, we're going to do some, I don't remember what he called it, visual combat or maneuvering or something, and one of the students says something like, what, 2v1? Oh, well, this is ACM, 2v1 is what we'd call it. In general, the Bandit is the Red Air. He's the one, and you're going to fly as a two-ship. Your element is going to fly as a two-ship to try to defeat a Bandit. Generally, in ACM, the Bandit starts offensive, which means he's behind you or has some kind of offensive advantage, and then you've got to work to kill him before he takes out your wingman or both of you. So I believe this is an ACM engagement of some kind. So we see these two guys flying in fingertip, and they're talking, and everyone's kind of grinning, because, oh yeah, clearly we're going to kick the old guy's butt. And I guess the female's name is Phoenix, because that's what's on her helmet right there, and they're all laughing, ha ha. And what is he, frat boy or farm boy? What the fanboy? Okay, one of the dude's names is Fanboy. That's awful. That's terrible. And then Maverick puts his visor down, because what's interesting about all their visors is they're all clear. There's no shaded visors, whatever I'm trying to say right there, but they're all clear visors. That way you can see the actor. So I believe he had his mask up. There you go. So he's got his mask up finally. Good on you, Maverick. You need to have your mask on when you're pulling some G's and doing some ACM. So he brings that visor down, and then it's fights on. And here this is the best part. There is no way in hell you would ever do this in an ACM engagement. For one thing, the two ship, which would be the Blue Air, all right, and Mav I assume is the Red Air, is in fingertip formation, which means they're right there. You don't fly like that tactically. There's no reason to. So they're not in a tactical formation. And he puts his visor down and then goes blasting through the middle of it at what is basically like a 20-foot pass on each jet, which looks really cool and is spectacularly, insanely, stupidly dangerous. And seriously, that's how people die. When you try not to get that close to each other when you are doing ACM or BFM. In fact, it's not try. You do not come that close to each other. That's a near midair. There would be, once again, another long debrief. And then if Maverick had been doing that multiple times in his career, he would have been not flying a long, long time ago. But again, this is a movie. But that little maneuver is completely and utterly out. He goes blasting through their formation, which causes them to split off. Now they're trying to put their masks on, and the guy in the tower's pissed. And then we have people partying. There's a picture of what looks like to be Goose again, or maybe his son. It's hard to track whether these are flashbacks or what. There's actually a picture of a P-51, which I assume Maverick owns now. He's messing around. He's flying his P-51 around. We're singing She's Lost That Loving Feeling. Now there's a fight in the war room. There's no fighting in the war room, so we've got the ready room, and everyone's ready to fight. Guys pushing, like, okay, yeah. And now we're doing some crazy cockpit to cockpit barrel roll, and next we've got a burner blowout or an engine problem of some kind, with flames coming out of the back, and now he's on fire, and Maverick's looking concerned. And of course we've got a funeral. So somebody has clearly died. Maverick is in his Class A's, and we got a missing man formation and a handsome lady watching it, and then we have a hug, and we're doing some kind of crazy aileron roll. And Maverick, this when you watch this thing, look at Maverick's face when he's very much concentrating while flying. He's got this weird, I don't know if it's from the plastic surgery, but his eyebrows are like coming out and down like an emoji. I don't know, it's very strange. Anyway, so he's flying very angrily and flying around. Now we got people flipping a football. Oh, fantastic. We have what looks to be like a volleyball game or potentially a football game because he was flipping a football as opposed to was that a football instead of a volleyball? It was a football. So it looks like a sunset, and it's two women high-fiving. So it's not just going to be a bunch of men with their shirts off. It's going to be women in sports bras and men with their shirts off. So good deal. We have equalized all that. And here's something I noticed in the first one, because obviously there was an image of him in some kind of spacesuit, sort of a SR-71-esque thing. Clearly not just a regular G-suit and harness and things like that. So there's a picture of him in that spacesuit walking with somebody, with Coleman, whoever that is. And then there's a picture of him running with some sensors on him, obviously training or seeing if he's good to go. Then there's a picture of him riding his bike. And there's a picture at that point is a scene of an F-18 dropping a bunch of flares. Looks like it's got a missile, something about break right. So the missile explodes and doesn't quite get the guy. And it goes on, and all of a sudden it goes to black, and the next thing you see the Top Gun logo, Maverick, and the last scene is kind of what I suspected was going to happen. Now he's in some crazy spaceship plane, right? Some kind of X-plane. He shoves it into overdrive, and then you got this big squared-off plane hauling ass right over. There's a guy standing there watching the airplane take off. So I assume Maverick has stolen it, I guess, a la Iron Eagle, or who knows. But he's now in the super space plane, you know, because he's the best pilot that ever was. And off it goes, and that is it. There's a great... I forgot about that last part. So the guy is standing there. The big square airplane comes screaming over top. You see all of the air and whatnot go by because of the rush of air from the jet. And as it goes into Maverick in the cockpit, and as he's flying away, you see Maverick do this kind of... He's flying, he kind of does this. You know, he's looking at the guy who's now about a mile behind him by the time he turns his head. Not a mile, but anyway, he can't see that guy. It's like the guy's right next to him as he's going by, you know, on his bike or cruising along in his car down the road. But I don't know. It's the theatrics are awesome. Well, there you go. That's my reaction to Top Gun Maverick 2020. It'd be a lot better if the video was there, but of course you can't monetize that because they go crazy if you do that. Anyway, get a copyright strike, all that crap. Check it out. Go ahead and look at it and see what you guys think. I'm looking forward to the movie. I actually enjoyed the first one. It's a large reason of why, you know, I got into what I did in my career. I loved the first movie, but it is funny once you get a little bit of professional knowledge in certain things and look at the way that Hollywood portrays them. You can often see the really goofiness of the whole thing. And I get it, at a large extent, it is also the theatrical thing, but in a lot of times they don't pay too much attention to reality. All right, man. That's all I've got, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you later. There'll be more World of Tanks if you didn't like this. See you later.